Hello and welcome to PMCLounge.com. This is Lounge Fever, a series of videos that are dedicated to answer your questions. These days, we have been talking about variance analysis, which of course is the only tool and technique of the control scope process. All of this is part of the scope management knowledge area. So, the question here is very interesting, and this, frankly, is a question which even I wondered when I read variance analysis for the first time. Is variance analysis worth it? Is it worth the time that you spent? Is it worth the effort that you spent as a project manager to compare the baseline, the planned versus the actual progress of your project, right? So is it worth it? And why this question? I'll definitely let you know why this question if you're still not understanding the need of this question, right? So I'll tell you that in the later slides. Let's get started with the first slide. So it's simple, right? You take corrective action if you're lagging behind. So what you do basically is you compare your actual project progress against the planned, the planned milestone, the planned progress, the planned status where you should have been. You compare your actuals against the plan, and if you're lagging behind, you come up with a corrective action, which may result into change requests. And then, of course, the entire change management takes place, and you execute those changes to make sure that your project comes back on track. So that is the whole idea of variance analysis. And like this slide say, you take corrective action if you're lagging, right? Now, the thing is, why this question comes up is, won't things change anyway? Now, you have a baseline. Looking into the slide, let me get up my highlighter. So on week 4, this is the color for planned and this is the color of actual. This represents project progress. Now, in week 4, your planned and your actual are neck and neck. So you are all doing great, right? You are on track. On week 8, again, your planned and your actual project progress is the same basically. So your, let's say this is all of this 12 weeks is basically the progress for coding, right? So let's say you're doing your coding on week 4 and week 8, your planned and actual were basically the same. So you were on track. Come week 12, you realize that you are lagging behind, right? Because your planned progress should have been something while your actual progress is pretty less. A bit less, right? Not pretty less. So you are a bit behind, you're a bit lagging on the on week 12. And that is when you realize that somebody came up and suggested that we basically add a new functionality on the project, right? So that is going to anyways increase the scope of your coding. So what has happened here now is that there is a change, which is that's the reason we have this title on the slide, right? Won't things change anyway? So what we just realized is that there is a change in the scope of the project. A key stakeholder, a client has come up and asked you to add some functionality, a new functionality on your project. Because of that, the scope of the project has now increased, and now week 12 you're lagging this much behind. You see this line? So you're lagging this much behind instead of the previous variance analysis that you did, right? So let me highlight it by red so that it's clear. So you're lagging this much now in week 12 because there is a change. Now, won't things change anyway? Because changes are pretty common. Every project will have certain change. So what is the need of doing variance analysis? What was the need of doing variance analysis on week 4 and week 12 when and week 8 when anyways when you came to week 12 there was a change and everything is now messed up, right? So was there really a need? Was variance analysis worth it on week 4 and week 8 when a change came in at week 12 and it totally derailed the entire project progress? That's the question we are tackling here. That's the reason why we have this question come up. That's the reason why a lot of project managers wonder whether or not you need variance analysis, because anyways things are going to change. Your baseline is not going to remain the same throughout your project unless and until you're someone who's very lucky, unless and until your project is something which is untouched by anybody else and there are no changes, which is basically never the case. Now, here's the reason why variance analysis is still worth it, even though there will be changes. If you wait until all changes are known, right? So, if you were waiting, if you didn't perform the variance analysis in a previous example on week 4 and week 8 because you were waiting for a change to come in, you might wait forever. A change came in week 12 in the previous case. It's possible that there would have been no change that would have come in week 12. Then what? You never did any variance analysis. You till week 12 you would have no idea where your project is against the baseline. You would have no idea what your actual progress of the project is against the baseline, and that is the reason why variance analysis is worth it. You cannot wait for all changes to come in. You have to go with your existing baseline, with your existing planned milestone of the project, your existing planned completion value of the project against your actual completion value of the project. You have to do that. You cannot wait for all changes to come in. The other thing to note here is that when you constantly check for your actuals versus baseline, you will be able to make corrections wherever necessary. In the previous example, we were on track on week 4 and week 8. There was a slight lagging in week 12. If there would have been no change introduced in week 12, we would have still been lagging, right? Even if there was no change introduced. In that case, we had to take a corrective action to make sure that the next time or as soon as possible, the progress of the project recovers. We go, according to our planned according to our planned schedule, right? So what happened on week 12 in the previous example was that we were lagging behind. We had to introduce a corrective action and we had to make sure that we catch up to our planned progress of the project as compared to our actual progress of the project, right? So the actual has to meet the plan and we had to introduce a corrective action which might have taken up a change request, right? So we had to do that. If we didn't do that, if we didn't do variance analysis, we would have not taken a corrective action itself, right? So that is the reason why you must constantly check your actuals versus your baseline and make corrections wherever it's necessary. Again, if you're making corrections and you come up with change requests, you should not forget change control. The change control is extremely important, and no matter howsoever small a change is, it must go through the change. So that's all that we had in this video. Subscribe to the channel and hit the bell icon to stay notified. Like this video, hit the like button if you enjoyed it, if you learned something new. Check us out on our social media. PMC Lounge is our handle on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And don't forget to check out the website pmclounge.com, your number one free resource for PMP and other project management certifications, as well as project management industry information. Thank you.